Welcome to our Weber County Commission meeting on this Tuesday, the 13th of August. It's 10 o'clock. We'd like to excuse Commissioner Bolos, who may join us via Zoom.
Recording in progress.
Not there, but we do have Commissioner Frohr, who is seated to my immediate left. We'll move forward with this meeting by calling the meeting to order and asking Miss Lisa Gosline, who's in the audience, to do the Pledge of Allegiance. Our invocation will be given by Mr. Craig Brandt, and then our thought of the day will be given by Commissioner Gage Frohr. We'll go to that point. Ms. Gosline.
Please join me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Father in heaven, we thank Thee for this wonderful day. We're grateful for the rain. We're grateful for the opportunity we have to gather in this forum. We're thankful for this county and for all who live within it, for the families and friends that we have, and ask humbly that Thy blessings will be upon them and their families. We pray at this time for this meeting that it will go smoothly and that we'll be able to conduct the affairs of the county in a way that's pleasing unto Thee. We pray in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Well, Commissioner, my thoughts could go a couple different directions today, but I think most importantly, some of us experienced a 4-year event here over the last 2 weeks. I think it was actually 17 days with 10,000 athletes that went to Paris to perform in the 2024 Olympics. And I'll be honest with you, I'm a Olympic junkie. More than once, I found myself yelling at those runners or swimmers, jumping up and screaming at the TV, "Run! Come on, get across the finish line!" But that's the kind of guy I am. I like to encourage people. I like competition. And at the end of the day, I think we can look at the Olympics, in my opinion, one of the best Olympics that, from a participant standpoint, that I've actually experienced in my life. But one article came across I thought was pretty important because everybody's focused on winning. We all want to win at some point. Sometimes we want to win at all cost. And there was an event that kind of caught my eye. I'm just going to give you the highlights here if I could. So there was a race, and I don't know exactly, I don't know if it was 10,000 meters exactly what it was, but a Kenyan runner named Mutai was just a few feet from the finish line, but he was from Kenya, became confused with the signage and stopped before the finish line, thinking he'd completed the race. A Spanish runner, the runner behind him, Ivan Fernandez, was right behind him, and realizing what was happening, started shouting at the Kenyan to continue running. Mutai didn't know Spanish, obviously, and didn't understand what was going on. Realizing that the Kenyan didn't know what was taking place, Fernandez, the Spanish gentleman, pushed the Kenyan, Mutai, to victory. Later, a journalist asked Ivan, "Why did you do that?" Ivan replied, "My dream is that someday we can have a kind of community life where we push and help each other to win." The journalist insisted, "But why did you let the Kenyan win? You could have won." "I didn't let him win," said Fernandez. "He was going to win. The race was his." The journalist insisted again, "But you could have won." Ivan looked at him and replied, "But what would be the merit of my victory? What would be the honor in that medal? What would my mother think of that?" Values are passed on from generation to generations. What values are we teaching our children? Let us not teach our kids the wrong ways and means to win. Instead, let us pass on the beauty and humanity of a helping hand, because honesty and ethics are, at the end of the day, winning. So I think we need to redefine what we classify as winning. Let's look at honesty and ethics and integrity as a true win. That's my thought.
That's a wonderful thought. That's a wonderful thought. Boy, I hadn't heard that story.
Yeah, just came out. So.
You know, and that's,
Lot for pause.
He also won the gold medal in his mother's heart, which probably is, even on a world stage, is more worthy than the greatest sports stage in the world.
Well, I think the point is what value would that medal have knowing that he didn't actually win the race? I think we all look for that experience. We all want to win, but at what cost?
Yeah.
I got to admit, I don't think every person would have done that. Would have been too easy to take that medal and let him hang out to dry there in second place. But anyway.
That's a great thought. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Great thought. Okay. It's wonderful to see when the character of man outshines things like that. That's a feel-good deal. We're going to move on to our commission agenda here. Item E, like Echo, is our agenda-related comments. We have a commission agenda for those of you in person. It's printed on that back table. For those of you online, you can find that quite easily. If you go to the WeberCounty.gov, you drop down on the department to the commission, and then you can go view live meeting, or you can see the agenda there. Now's the time, because we are in a public meeting, that comments will be taken, and you can address the Weber County Commission. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes, but we do ask that you limit your comments to those items that are printed on the agenda. Are any in the audience that would like to speak to this comments? Come on forward if you would. State your name, the city from where you're from, and the nature of what you're talking to us about today. I think we already know, but go ahead.
Sure thing. Commissioners, my name is Joe Silverswag. I live in Murray, and I am here today to talk to you about the Comcast franchise agreement. I just wanted to take a minute to give you a little bit of an update on what Comcast is doing. The first, I think, most important thing is that we are building out a great deal of Weber County. We just signed a franchise this year with Huntsville, building out Huntsville. We're also building out the rest of the Ogden Valley. The plan right now on Comcast's own budget, so this isn't using any federal dollars or anything along those lines, is adding 4,712 new households and businesses to our network. Everybody up there is going to be getting a fiber to the premises network, so we're going to be offering multi-gig symmetrical speeds to those residents, the full suite of television services, high-speed broadband, home security, telephone, and then of course our Comcast business service, best-in-class business service to businesses up there. So we're thrilled to be doing that. Looking forward to building out those communities and really upgrading our network throughout. So right here in Ogden, we're adding a lot of speed and capability to our network, and even on our current systems that are hybrid fiber and coax, we're going to be offering those multi-gig symmetrical speeds, as well as a new range of wireless products similar to what you're getting with other home wireless internet. So thrilled to be not just investing in this community by renewing this franchise, but also by investing millions of dollars and a lot of man hours to build out this community, add more passings, and improve the quality of service to everybody in Weber County.
Thank you so much for your comments. Any others?
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Good afternoon.
My name is Greg Bateman, and I just wanted to clarify.
What city are you from, Mr. Bateman?
I currently live in Riverdale. My hope is, well, I will be, within the next 9 to 12 months, a homeowner with my wife in Winston Park. And I see it's on the back page, so I don't know if it's available for me to comment now.
You could go ahead. You can do that now.
Okay. All right. So as you know, there's been some requests for changes in what some of the open space in Winston Park development was going to be. The place that was going to be an open space will now be, or proposed to be, some twin patio homes. Me and one other individual property owner are probably the most directly impacted by that because if you were to refer to the map of that community, we live in a cul-de-sac, and right behind the cul-de-sac is where the patio homes will be. That wasn't on the plan when we purchased our lot in February.
I see where you are.
Yeah.
I know where you are on this. I've got that
Right.
right here.
So when I initially heard of the proposed plan,
It's a nice lot you've got.
it's going to be a heck of a nice place, directly facing the mountains.
Why, though, sorry to interrupt your thought, and I'll give you a little more time, but why would you leave the beloved community of Riverdale?
You know that I hate living or moving from Riverdale because everything is there.
It is.
I've lived there for 27 years. I have the most wonderful neighbors a person could ask for.
Yeah.
But I live in a multi-level home.
Okay.
I'm getting old.
I get it. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I was just
No
I love
problem.
Riverdale. Go, it's okay.
It is an awesome community, despite Riverdale Road. But so when I heard of the proposed changes, I frankly was pretty irritated because I wasn't. When I purchased the lot, the intent was there would be this open space behind me, significant open space, which now is proposed to be patio homes. And I didn't quite like the thought of that. As I've spoken to the developers, there will still be a significant open space behind me, but not to the extent that it was. And as I further evaluate that, it is still rural. There are still wildlife. In fact, to this day, from the time we purchased the lot, there's the carcass of a coyote on our property, but just an indicator of what wildlife is out there. And so this open space, not believing it's in the plan of the HOA to maintain that as a well-manicured lawn park area, as I consider more, it's probably going to be more of a habitat for critters that I don't really want in my backyard. And homes, be it patio home or other, probably will provide more control of that wildlife than what the plan currently is. So my wife and I have met with the developers and I think we can live with what their plans are if approved by the commission. And we're really looking forward to living in that community. We've met some of the neighbors that are there already, and they're equally wonderful as those neighbors I've had in Riverdale for 27 years. I hope I can be the neighbor that they deserve as well, but it's a good community. It looks to be. Changes, I think, could have probably been addressed differently from the developer from the onset if the plans were in place prior to me knowing about it or purchasing the lot. I think there could have been more transparency in what the plans were. But that's past. People, the developers have a significant investment in that community. And as a property owner now, I can live with what the proposed changes are. And it is different than when I first learned about it. We all grow a little bit. So.
Thank you, Mr. Bateman. Do me a favor, will you?
Uh-huh.
First off, there's a story, but I'm not going to get into it now. But I loved your story about where you came from and where you're headed to and your thought on neighbors. And you likely are that neighbor that everybody's going to hate to see move because you're that kind of guy. But Shelley, would you raise your hand back there? See Shelley back there? Will you leave your contact information, your phone number and email with her?
Certainly
I'd
will.
like to visit with you a little more about that.
You bet.
Thank you. If you'd
Thank
be
you.
able to do that. Thank you. Okay. Any more that would like to address the commission? Any online? Great. We'll move on, Commissioner, to our consent items. That's item F on our agenda, which is a request for approval of warrants 102-719 through and including 102-776 and 485-873 through and including 485-998 in the amount of $1,497,739.74. Item 2 is a request for approval of purchase orders in the amount of $471,235.90. And item 3 is that summary of warrants and purchase orders, but I'm also going to include the request for the approval of the ACHA payments to Zion Bank, which in the amount of $248,277.83. We're going to go to our very own Mr. Ricky Hatch, our great clerk auditor, for an explanation of some of the highlights of those charges or bills.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We issued 10 purchase orders this week for $471,000. Just under half that amount, $221,000, is for the parks to construct a post-frame building. 36%, or $168,000, is for the transfer station to purchase and install new scales and conduct some equipment repairs. 9%, or $40,000, is for the conference center, and that is labor for banquets and kitchen help. 7%, or $33,000, is for the IT department to purchase equipment as well as services for the recorder surveyor's office. 184 warrants were issued this week for $1.5 million. Just under half that amount, or $705,000, is for the transfer station, and that was almost exclusively for disposal fees. 9%, or $134,000, was a pass-through payment from the health department to Ogden School District. And then we had 3 items at 6%, or about $95,000. One for the library to purchase books and materials, utilities, and software services. One was for the WEBER Housing Authority to conduct building improvements. One was for dental, disability, and vision insurance for employees. And then we had one amount at 5%, or $81,000, for roads, and that was to purchase asphalt and other road supplies.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Frohr, do you have any questions for Mr. Hatch on any of those?
No, Mr. Hatch very clearly communicated it.
He's a good communicator. Great. Commissioner, I failed to mention Tom Hanson, who's the city manager of Washington Terrace, seated in our audience today. Tom, welcome to join us. We appreciate you being here with us.
We're so honored to be.
Honored with an H. Item 5 is a request for approval of new business licenses. Item 6 is a request for approval of minutes for the meeting held on August 6, 2024. Item 7 is a request for approval of County Human Resources Policy 2-1000, the background checks. Item 8 is a request for approval of the change order 02 associated with the Wadman construction contract for the construction of the Weber Morgan Children's Justice Center. I'm looking for, nope, not here. Item 9 is a request for approval of ratification of the agreement by and between Weber County and C&B Asphalt for the library parking lot maintenance. Item 10 is a request for the Community Development Community Development Department for approval to sell surplus property identified as parcel 19-021-0010. Item 11 is a request for approval to renew a franchise agreement by and between Weber County and Comcast. There you go. To construct and operate a cable system in the public ways within unincorporated Weber County. Item 12 is a request for approval of a 5-year extension of an agreement by and between Weber County and Levitt's Mortuaries for indigent dead cremation services. Did any of you know that we did the indigent burial? County does indigent burials. Another little factoid that most people don't know. Item 13 is a request for approval of a contract by and between Weber County and 7 Ventures to purchase right-of-way along 2550 South for corridor preservation using WACOG funds. Good job on that, team. And item 14, or page 2, is a request for approval of an amendment to an agreement by and between Weber County and Cody Nebaker, allowing contractor to operate and maintain a disc golf concession at Fort Buenaventura. Commissioner, those are our consent items today. Do you have any questions or concerns with any of those? And if not, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Great, I'm happy to make a motion for consent items as read, F1 through 14, move to approve.
We have a motion. I'll second that motion. I'll place that motion for vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you. Item G One is a request for approval of the first reading of the ordinance of the County Commissioners of Weber County governing background checks for applicants for county employment and volunteers. We have our very own Miss Emily Wild here. Miss Wild, thank you for coming up and explaining this to the public. Thank you. We appreciate the prior briefing and work sessions that you can also view on county recordings.
Thank you, Commissioners. So, like mentioned, I have before you a first reading of an ordinance governing background checks for applicants for county employment and volunteers. So within the county, we employ various individuals who might have access to confidential or sensitive information. They might have access to financial records, work with children or the various vulnerable populations. And this ordinance governs so that the Human Resource Department can conduct a background check upon hire for these people in these positions or volunteers.
Thank you for keeping the public safe with this policy upgrade. Commissioner Frohr, any comments or questions?
I would just say, Emily, thank you for this. This is something that very much needed. And I think the way that you've got this structured basically will help reduce liability, potential liability to the county as we hire these people. And it's a pretty common practice hiring nowadays to do background checks. I mean, just in about any time when you apply to rent an apartment, you're going to get a background check just to make sure that the information that you put on that information sheet is in fact factual. So I think it's a step in the right direction.
Very good.
Okay.
If that's the case, would you mind making a...
No, I'm happy to make a motion to approve the first reading of an ordinance of the County Commissioners of Weber County governing the background checks for applicants for employment with Weber County and volunteers, as presented by Miss Emily Wild this morning.
I'll approve that, place that for vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Rollins, if you'll make your way up. Item 2 is a request for approval of the first reading of an ordinance of the County Commissioners of Weber County amending certain fees to Weber County Culture Parks and Recreation. At our ice sheet, we have our director, Ms. Mariko Rollins. Go ahead, Ms. Rollins.
Welcome. Thanks for having me. As you know, the cost of ice statewide can vary widely depending on the municipality or private group that owns the rink. The highest price of ice right now in Utah is $395 an hour. The lowest is below $150 an hour.
Let me interrupt you. When we're talking about ice, we're not talking about the ice that you go and pick out of that little cabinet when you go to your favorite little market to put in your drink. We're talking about ice that you skate on or curl on or have activities on. It's a much larger piece of ice. Thank you, Ms. Rollins. Go ahead.
Yes, and it's our largest commodity. We provide a world-class product. So every year we've taken the steps to gradually meet the market needs by raising the cost of the hour of ice and balancing that with concessions prices and other things that we sell at the rink. So our proposed rates are before you, and this will take us to this year's raise, and then next year we'll assess the market with the new opening of Southtown and other rinks that are going up. We'll have another adjustment.
Great. Well, does that conclude your presentation, Ms. Rollins? Commissioner Frohr, who, by the way, you talk about the Olympic spirit, but I was going through some photographs that were 20-something years ago, and I watched as the Olympic torch came up Washington Boulevard to the south and was exchanged right as Harrison Boulevard intersects Washington Boulevard. And that torch bearer was a dark, full-headed, haired runner, Gage Frohr. I looked at it and I thought, wait, he looks familiar. And as I studied it, I thought, what a difference a couple of decades makes. But he was a runner, a great runner actually for Weber High School, cross country and marathons, and done many since then. So a perfect person to have that. But also, where I was leading with that, but also was a coach. He's been a hockey player, but a hockey coach, and coached a lot of little things. So if anybody knows ice, it's Commissioner Frohr. Any comments or questions relating to this?
Well, thank you for that introduction that I really didn't need, but appreciate that. So, Mariko, tell me what our cost would be, the new cost.
Prime hour of ice would be $220 an hour, and then $200 for non-prime and $180 for Sundays.
Okay. And have you had conversations with users
Yes.
and they seem to be okay with that?
Well, whether they're okay with it or not, they know it's coming.
Okay, they know it's coming.
Yes.
All right, well, and they may not be happy. Nobody wants to spend more money or pay more money, but we know what our costs are, and we do have a great product up there that, and with the Olympics coming up and young skaters coming up every day, we're very fortunate to have the ice sheet here in Weber County.
Yeah, that's true.
With that, Mr. Chair, I'm happy to make a motion whenever you're ready.
Go ahead.
So I would move to approve the first reading of the ordinance of County Commissioners of Weber County, amending the fees to Weber County Culture Parks and Rec Department facilities for the Weber County ice sheet as presented this morning by Ms. Mariko Rollins.
I'll second that with a brief comment. Go ahead. Most of you know that anything, when you have a public facility, whether it be a ice sheet, a fairgrounds, a public park, anything like that, it is supported by taxpayers. In Weber County, that means it's supported by your property tax. Not so in Weber County. Not so in Weber County. Property taxes don't make up the shortfall at our facilities. And you think, well, how can that be? Here's one of those other politician bunch of stuff. What happens is in Weber County, not in the other counties, but in Weber County, we have such a strong tourism presence here that the taxes derived from tourism through hotels and restaurants and what have you are used to offset the deficit at our public facilities. So whether you're talking about the Ogden Eccles Conference Center, the Perry's Egyptian Theater, the Ice Sheet, Fort Buenaventura, the Fairgrounds, the Shooting Complex, the Archery Center, North Fork Park, Memorial Park, and on and on and on, the tourism offsets the deficit of all those things. And so our property tax holders are not making up the difference there. And so we watch all of our property taxes very closely so we don't add to the burden of people here. And so, Ms. Rollins, even though $220 seems, oh, it's excessive for somebody to come or a team to come to practice on ice, it still doesn't cover the shortfall of running a facility like that. Making ice at that quantity is very, very expensive. But luckily, we appreciate all the tourism that comes from that, including most people don't know that we have a semi-professional hockey club up there. We cover all the schools with Weber State and some of the others with clubs and do a good job, and we appreciate that. So with that second, I'll place that motion for vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Rollins.
Thank you.
Ms. Goslin, please come forward if you would. The next item, Commissioner, is a request for approval of a contract by between Weber County and Everbridge for an emergency mass notification system. And for those of you in our audience today who've chosen to be here for this contract, our first responders, please know that we appreciate you very much. We'll ask that you, well, I was just going to kid, but appreciate your support on this. Lisa, go ahead.
I was going to have them come up and stand behind me.
Go ahead. Please do.
Okay, guys. They're not too excited about that, but I think it's important to show the united effort in this. Just as a background for those that don't know, this contract before you is actually for Region 1 Homeland Security Coalition. That includes 6 counties, which
Hold on just a second. Kenny, you know you're a pretty face. Come on up a little closer. Let's crowd around Lisa a little more. I want the camera to hit on there a little more. And why wouldn't I embarrass you when you're here, right?
Solid point.
Come on up a little closer. Tom, rest of you, come on up closer. Matt?
As you can see, we have several city emergency managers, county emergency managers. We have dispatch here with us as well. So the region includes Davis County, Weber County, Box Elder, Cache, and Rich counties. And we all collectively use one mass. Oh, and I forgot Morgan. I'm sorry, Austin. We all collectively use the same emergency mass notification system. And in the last few years, we've had a lot of growth within Weber County and Davis County in particular. And we've had some issues with the current one, which is Code Red. And that prompted a lot of discussion, particularly in Weber County, but also in Davis County because of some issues that we have. It's a notification system that relies pretty much on just those people that opt in to the mass notification. It's very difficult to get people to opt in. And as we went forward, we decided that we would like to do an RFP, so we put that forward, and we had several candidates come through. Through that process, this group has selected Everbridge. It does have a component to it called Resident Connection. It's an additional amount. I know about 2 or 3 years ago, we had a quote just for Weber County from Resident Connection, or for Resident Connection from Everbridge, and it was $70,000. This contract, if you notice, we were able to get that down to $49,800 for that additional piece of it. This is a large contract. It's for 5 years so that we can lock in this price. It does have a one-time setup fee. But as we went through, this is what this group felt like was best for us. That Resident Connection has a feature where it does have some proprietary database information that allows us to access some cell phone numbers, which is different than the other vendors, which are primarily VoIP numbers or anything that they get through 911 and those type of services. And so this one still has, you can only use Resident Connection in the case of life safety. So it still has some strict requirements to it. This vendor, as well as Code Red did, it allows us to also access iPOS, which is a notification system that comes down through the cell towers and will notify anyone in the area. This is something that just takes those phone numbers within this region. So do you have any questions about this?
Commissioner Frohr, questions?
Thanks, Lisa. So I appreciate your hard work and all your committee you have with you behind you. Good-looking group. But we talked at one time that the state was going to come out with a preferred vendor. Is this our own
That was,
or does this correspond with the state?
the Salt Lake County then emergency manager, which was Clint Meekum, he wanted to try to do that. He did not get traction on that.
Okay.
And so that is something that failed.
Okay, so this will basically be for the 3 counties, am I correct?
No, it's for 6. It's for
six.
the whole region. So again, that's Davis, Weber, Morgan, Box Elder, Rich, and Cache County.
Oh, and cash, okay, great, okay, thank you. No
And
other
we
questions?
are just so you know, we are the purchasing entity, but it's on behalf of the rest of the group, and it is paid for through SHSP funds, project funds.
So before I ask for a motion, Commissioner, I want those of you here to hear from us how much we appreciate you all getting together. And I realize this has been 18 months, 2 years to get to this point, at least that I remember. It's probably a lot longer than that. But what's happened here is you've been able to get everybody to agree. And the reason I wanted all of you on camera, it was a little tongue-in-cheek, was not because Austin is such a good singer and I was going to have him lead in chorus, but was because Mike's also a good singer and they could do a duet. No, but it was to have but to also have I wanted to show the solidarity between all of you, how that's come together, to get agencies and counties, governments working together for one common cause of good. We, and I know I can speak for this body, have a tremendous respect and regard for what you're doing. I know that we have the best response team in the land. Our numbers prove it, and this just helps to expand that so that when you get to the people that matter, they have the best service available to them. And all of you are a key part of that. I hope that you feel, and the fact that you're here, we know that you feel proud of what you're doing. We thank you. Genuinely, we thank you for your part, each of your parts in this. So when those calls come that changes people's lives, you have a positive impact, so it's better than what it could have been. So we genuinely thank you so much for that. Appreciate that. And with that, Commissioner Frohr, I'll entertain a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd make a motion with the comment.
Please.
Again, this has been a heavy lift. This is a big deal for the 6 counties. I'm hopeful that this new system, even though it appears to be a great system, doesn't get used very much, hopefully at all. Let's try to keep that in mind moving forward. But what it does do is give the public the information that if something was to happen, they'll be notified from all the agencies out there, and that the county, city governments do care about their personal lives, their assets, their property, and that you folks out here are there to protect them. So again, I just want to tell everybody here, thank you for that. And I agree with Commissioner Harvey. First responders, we owe much more gratitude than we can express up here from the podium this morning. But with that, Mr. Chair, I'd move to approve the contract between Weber County and Everbridge for an emergency mass notification system as presented this morning by this great group.
Great. It's easy to second that. I'll place that for vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much, all of you.
Thank you. Thanks, Lisa.
Item number 4, Mr. Ewert. It's a request for approval of a resolution to amend the Western Weber General Plan's future land map to redesignate parks and recreation area to medium to large residential related to the Winston Park development. Charlie, go ahead.
Commissioners, you've heard from me on this item several times before, and I don't have much more to add for you. The developer's asking for approval both of the general plan amendment, but the other 2 items on the agenda, which is the rezone and the development agreement. Are there any questions or clarifications I can offer you?
Commissioner Frohr.
I do have a question, Charlie. So regarding the amendment to the general plan future land use map, is that required? What tie-in does that have with the rezone?
So,
So if that was passed and the rezone was not approved at some point in time, and or the development agreement was not approved, where does that put us?
actually, if the general plan amendment is passed without the rezone or the development agreement, it still puts us in a good spot. The applicant can come back at a later time and ask for the rezone to the R115 zone. Basically, let me show you up on the screen how this looks. Let me
You had something there a minute ago.
that was the rezone map. Let me get you the general plan map. Sorry, a little bit too much stuff here. Getting there. So your current general plan has some green space, some parks and recreation space on this property. Well, I'll just explain it to you. It's got a little bit of green space where the open space of this original Winston Park subdivision was platted. Here we go. So this would be the general plan amendment to the map. Right over here in this corner, if that's visible, the upper left-hand corner, that was slated as green space, as well as some of the frontage along, this is 1800 South here, the white dashed line on the left-hand side under the subject property text. That was slated as recreation and parks. This change would just allow the applicant to come back in at a later time, looking to change their open space area to residential. So you can separate the general plan amendment from the rezone. If you were to deny the rezone today, or if the rezone were to fail, they wouldn't be able to reapply for a rezone for another year for the property. But at the very least, if you did pass the general plan amendment, they would have that done. And so they'd be ready to go at that time.
Okay, so if that was passed, if the amendment was passed, does it change what could take place on that land right now?
No.
So that remains the same, just as the current residents see it as it exists today?
Correct.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
And
Yep.
subject to the passing of the rezone and the development agreement?
Yep, rezone development agreement will be the only things that literally change what can happen on
Got
the
it.
property.
Okay, that was my question, Mr. Chair.
Okay. I don't have any questions on that. Do you have any, what do you want to do there, Gage?
Well, I would, for this particular item, I would move to approve the amendment to the general plan's future land use map, understanding that basically that doesn't allow them to move forward until these other two items are addressed.
Correct.
Correct. So I'd make that motion.
I'll second that, and I'll place that for vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. It's a roll call vote, excuse me. It's a resolution, I don't have that number.
41-2024.
41-2024. Go ahead, Mr. Brandt, for the resolution.
Roll call vote for Resolution 41-2024. Commissioner Faur.
Aye.
Chair Harvey.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you. Item number 5 is a request for approval of a development agreement for the Winston Park development. Mr. Ewert?
Same comments as before. You've seen all this before. So we got the development agreement and the rezone should go together. If the development agreement is invalid, then the rezone is invalid, and if the rezone is invalid, then the development agreement is invalid. So they go hand in hand. Basically, just looking to plat that property out, the open space area in Winston Park. The developers did do as Commissioner Bullos had asked, and went to each of the property owners directly buffering or adjacent to that open space area to get, at the very least, their statement on what they understand the developer can do, and each of them seem to understand that the developer can potentially develop that property if you guys make this approval today.
Well, and that's evident, Mr. Bateman being here today. So, Commissioner Faur?
Any additional information that, since we heard this a couple weeks ago, I mean, we've got the letters here from some of the neighbors. We've heard from Mr. Bateman here.
So in your last meeting, it was tabled pending notification from neighbors, as well as platting or potentially platting a street through Lot 108 in Winston Park Phase 1. Lot 108 is currently held by a separate entity. Let's see. And the developers looked at that a few different ways, doesn't feel like it's feasible to do. And so there's a couple different ways that if you guys want to see this move forward, there's a couple different ways you could do it. The way the development agreement is written right now wouldn't require a street to be platted through Lot 108 in Phase 1. It would require a pathway to be platted through it. Well, it and adjoining, they're actually going to share a property boundary there. So just a direct pass or direct approval would result in that. If you'd rather do an approval with the stub going through Lot 108, a stub street going through Lot 108, you can add that into your motion, your recommendation, and I can make sure I do some language tweaks to the development agreement before you guys sign it. Or you could table it, or you could deny it. Your guys' choice.
Mr. Faur?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Charlie. Appreciate the developers' patience in this matter. I know we've talked about this more than on one occasion, several occasions. But I'm going to make a motion whenever you're ready.
Go ahead.
So, Mr. Chair, I would move to table agenda items 5 and 6, the approval of development agreement and the rezone ordinance. I think we've received a lot of the information back that we need to make a final decision. But at the same time, with Commissioner Bullos being absent today, I know she had some interests and some concerns. I think this is a big enough deal that I feel that I would move for time certain for next week or the first available agenda to place this back on. Encourage the developers and Charlie to meet with, make sure that the questions are answered before this comes back. Because I understand you've addressed a lot of the questions. I'm not sure all the questions have been answered. And I'm not here to slow cook the developer, but I'm here to make sure that the decision that we make is a good decision and that all the questions that need to be answered are in fact answered. So that's my motion to table agenda items 5 and 6 for a time certain next week or the first available agenda after that.
I can second that motion. I'll place that for item 5 and 6 for vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, those two items are tabled for time certain. Commissioner comments, item H.
Well, I'd be negligent if I didn't congratulate you on a great Weber County Fair.
Well, our team. Duncan was here just a moment ago. He just walked out, but we have a fantastic team. And
What happened to all our, we had Duncan and Marty and I had a whole group out there. I tell you, And the people I talked to, and I did a lot of talking to the vendors. The vendors I talked to, which was a good majority, all had good things to say. They were there. Some of them didn't say they didn't make a lot of money, but they were happy to be there, and they made enough to make it worthwhile. So the rodeo was great. Bullfights were amazing.
Amazing.
And everything that took place at the livestock auction. I don't know what the numbers are yet, but I've got a feeling based on the individual prices I saw, it could be a record breaker in terms of dollars.
Last year, Weber County businesses put more than $1 million into the pockets of Weber County youth. And so the prices were up really good, and the numbers were about even where they were the year before. So that would make sense.
I think so. Anyway, congratulations for the Mr.
Duncan, if you'll take that back to
Jimmy
your folks.
Harvey, Weber County Fair. Duncan, great job. And Ashton, that whole group out there just busted their behind to make sure that it was great for everybody.
Shelley, did you have something you wanted to say? No. Okay, great. All right. With that, then, I'll entertain a motion for item I, India.
So moved to adjourn.
A second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.